The egg bubble implodes above the adult's back. A massive faceless brood beast stands locked inside a submerged specimen elevator, its heavy low body braced on 4 thick anchor limbs. Blue pressure light moves up the vertical glass walls. Outside the glass, water rises slowly, turning every reflection into a distorted shadow. Above the beast's back floats a halo of large translucent egg bubbles, each one tethered by wet cords rooted into the adult's back ridge. One bubble folds inward. Inside it, a folded alien egg hangs in the center of the sphere. For a moment, the bubble looks like a protective cradle. Then the membrane contracts from all sides, the shell dents inward. A thin fracture line appears not from a creature pushing out but from the bubble crushing in. The adult does not turn a head, it has no face to turn, its sealed head ridge remains motionless while the wet tether connected to the collapsing bubble pulls tight. The whole heavy body shifts underneath the halo, the anchor limbs spread across the wet floor. The blue elevator light sharpens, the bubble continues to collapse. The first reading is simple. The egg is being destroyed. But this species does not hatch by breaking out. It hatches by being crushed. The airless cradle beast does not use nests, wombs, or warm incubation. Its young do not wait inside protective shells until they open themselves. Each egg is suspended inside a large airless pressure bubble grown outside the adult body. The bubble is not a shelter, it is a birth organ. When the adult lowers pressure around one tethered bubble, the membrane implodes in a controlled rhythm, the shell cracks inward, the pressure wakes the larva inside. But this bubble has started too early, the premature bubble is still tethered to the adult's back. But the rest of the halo is not ready. Several smooth bubbles drift above the beast, each carrying an uncracked egg. They are large enough to be read through the blue light, floating like living organs above the adult's body. Their wet cords stretch from the same back ridge. Their pressure rhythms are connected. Only one bubble may collapse at a time. If two collapse together, the pressure waves interfere. The eggs inside do not awaken, they are crushed without rhythm. The tether halo tears itself apart, and the adult loses the brood. The submerged elevator rises. Water outside the glass climbs higher. Blue reflections bend across the beast's sealed ridge and over the floating bubbles. The premature bubble contracts again. The egg shell inside folds into a shallow dent. The wet tether pulls so hard that a groove opens along the adult's back, as if the collapse is dragging the whole body into one decision. The adult shifts left, every bubble above it sways, one safe bubble begins to tremble. Its egg remains intact, but the membrane vibrates out of rhythm. Another safe bubble shakes on the opposite side of the halo. The beast has not only one crisis now, it has a spreading pressure failure. The collapsing bubble tightens around the premature egg. The shell cracks inward in a ring. No mouth opens, no tiny limb breaks through. The shell is not being escaped, it is being shaped into a first chamber. The pressure is turning failure into birth, but the rest of the halo is beginning to join the collapse too soon. The adult lowers its sealed head ridge. The anchor limbs press harder into the wet elevator floor. The back cords pull in opposite directions. The premature tether tightens, two outer tethers slacken. The adult cannot save every bubble. It must isolate the collapse, or lose all of them. The first sacrificed bubble drifts away. Its egg is still folded inside, smooth and unmarked. It does not hatch, its wet cord thins and separates from the adult's back. The second sacrificed bubble follows, sliding through blue light toward the glass wall, still carrying an egg that will never receive the correct pressure rhythm. Two empty tether roots seal into dark marks on the adult's back. The halo becomes smaller. The premature bubble is alone. Now the adult gives the collapse a controlled path. The tether groove pulses. The bubble membrane folds inward more evenly, the egg shell compresses from every side, what looked like death becomes pattern. What looked like protection becomes a device for crushing. Inside the shell, something moves. At first it is only a shadow behind the inward cracks, then a curled segment presses against the crushed chamber. The larva is not breaking free into open air, it is waking inside the collapsed space made for it. The shell fragments press inward around its body like the first walls of a living chamber. The elevator rises again. The blue pressure band moves upward over the adult body, the broken halo, and the collapsed bubble. The remaining bubbles hold their round shapes, the two missing spaces stay open. The sacrificed eggs drift farther behind the glass reflections, the adult stays still. Its anchor limbs tremble from the pressure cost, its sealed ridge remains lowered. The living collapsed cradle hangs lower than the rest of the halo, heavy with broken shell and a moving larva. The larva curls once, the membrane flexes. The birth has succeeded, but the system is no longer whole. This is the horror of the airless cradle beast. It is not a mother protecting eggs in a nest. It is not a parasite carrying young inside flesh. It is a massive pressure body whose offspring hang outside it in readable translucent bubbles. Every bubble is part of the adult's reproductive machinery. Every tether is a pressure line. Every collapse must happen alone. The final image holds on the reduced halo. A faceless adult stands inside the submerged elevator, blue pressure light fading across its wet back. One collapsed cradle hangs above it, no longer a sphere, but a wrinkled transparent chamber. Inside the crushed shell, the larva moves again. Around it, the remaining egg bubbles float intact. Two spaces in the halo are empty. 1. Young has awakened. 2. Will never collapse.